Coming up, my guest is the CEO of Switch Automation, Deb Noller, and I'm excited to talk to them about what their energy dashboard. Come on up. Hi, Deb.
How are you?
Good to see you.
Jerry, is it?
That's right. What are your impressions of the conference thus far?
It's fantastic. I just went to the keynote downstairs, and every year the keynote gets bigger, much more visionary and much more relevant to where we're going in the future, and this one was outstanding. Absolutely fantastic.
What are some of the trends you're seeing at this conference?
At this conference, I think just generally what I'm seeing around the world is enterprise real estate has really not evolved as fast as the rest of the tech world.
Yeah.
And people realize that they're kind of coming from behind, and they really feel like now's the time. And so we're seeing just much more interest around how IoT is going to fit into this world of real estate. How are they going to use IoT to help solve big business problems? So this is not about energy anymore. This is about far more than energy. It's really about, what are the problems that you're facing running your real estate portfolio? And that could be anything from, how much real estate do I need?
Yeah.
Like, don't tell me how much energy I'm going to save. Maybe I don't even need that building. How many people are coming in and out? Which parts of the building are being used? So people counting is a big one. And then if you think about all of these sensors that are coming into the market, it's really going to help people to run those assets as part of their business.
What are some of the things that you, out on the edge at Switch Automation, are seeing in IoT that we don't even have an inkling about yet? What are some of the other exciting opportunities that people aren't seeing?
So I was speaking to a couple of banks last week.
Yes.
And one of the big problems that one of them threw across the table with us, because one of the big things that we have to do when we go and talk to customers is you can't assume what are the problems they're trying to solve. So I had two banks. One of them has reduced the footprint of their stores dramatically over the last few years, but they've put lots and lots of technology into those stores, so coin counters and lots of screens.
Right.
So the energy intensity has gone up in those stores, so it makes their sustainability numbers look really poor because the energy intensity's gone up.
Right.
So that was their problem. But the next bank that we spoke to, what they were interested in was how do they incorporate all of these sensors so that they know what's going on. So one of the big ones was that twice last year they had this case where somebody had left the doors unlocked.
Oh.
And in one of the instances, it made it to the papers. So even though that only happened twice,
right,
and it made the newspaper, that became a significant problem. So they were like, how do you help us know whether the doors have been locked?
So was that an automation issue?
That is incorporation of various systems and then giving people visibility into remote locations. Because if you think about things like bank branches or grocery stores, they don't have on-site facility managers. So you need to be able to feed that information back.
So how does Switch Automation handle both of these problems?
Sure. So we are a software platform, and we help large enterprise to connect data, systems, people, devices. So we're this platform that sits in the cloud, and we can incorporate various devices, various systems, various data feeds, and give people a single unified user interface, and then they can have actionable insight out of their data. Because people are literally drowning in their data. It's not a lack of data here,
right,
it's a lack of actionable data.
And then in what way does your dashboard make it actionable?
Sure. So we, first of all, bringing all of that information into one place, giving people one login for all of their buildings, and then we have this thing called Smart Alerts, and what Smart Alerts does is it looks across the data and it finds the problems, and this, as going back to my earlier thing, that relates to whatever those business problems are. And then we find those problems and we feed those up to the people who are responsible. So it could be things like the doors being unlocked. That would be a red hot alert. It could be something like your signage being out or signage being half lit, because that's something that typically somebody actually has to, put their eyeballs on to see if it's working or not. It could be something like people counting. How many people are using the building today? Do I need that building? Is this area of the building being used ever? Maybe I should repurpose that piece of the building. So we incorporate third-party systems and devices. And we're going to see millions of these devices coming into the market. That's what IoT is going to do. It's going to open up if you think about, like, if you really want to be quite visionary about this, if you're running food stores,
Right.
you would want to know, maybe there's going to be sensors in the future that can detect when food is off in a refrigerator.
Right.
You can alarm on that.
Tell me a Switch Automation success story. Tell me one of your favorites of a way that you came in and really helped a business do what it needed to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I look around the room here today, we've got partners in Dell with their gateways, partners with Microsoft, we're hosted on Azure, and partners with Intel with their chips in the gateway. Two of those companies are our customers, and one of them we're helping them to roll out their retail portfolio network. So this is stores that have 4 or 5 systems inside each store. None of those systems are connected even inside the store, let alone back to somebody's head office. And they're complicated systems. So if you think about proactive maintenance, that rather than reactive maintenance, so rather than waiting for somebody to pick up, to ring and say that they've got a problem, how do we actually look at that data and tell people where there are problems before? So one of the biggest problems in our customers is the hot-cold call. I'm hot or I'm cold. And sometimes that's over 25% of all of the maintenance calls that come from inside buildings. So if you can detect before somebody picks up the phone, and then you can help people triage that problem. So we're doing that with most of our customers now, like looking at hot, cold space calls, helping our customers to detect those problems early and then helping them triage those problems remotely so that they're not sending a maintenance technician.
Where do you see Switch Automation in particular as it relates to IoT in the next 24 months?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. So my view of the world is, if you think about, so I always like to use this analogy. In 2007, when you installed software on your PC, you went down to the local store and you bought, a box of your accounting software, and you bought a box of Microsoft Office, and you bought a box of something, and you came home and you put the CDs into your computer and you installed that. Right. And all of those systems operated independently of each other. That's how buildings are today. They have all of these systems that sit inside buildings that operate completely independently of each other. So my view of the future is the cloud and Internet of Things. It's going to create this ecosystem, and the software developers are going to come into this ecosystem because the platforms and the infrastructure will be there. So Microsoft Azure, Dell gateways, those types of initiatives are opening up the industry to the software community, who can come in and build best-of-breed applications. So if you think about what Amazon Web Services did for the cloud, right, all of a sudden you had these applications that you used in the cloud, and then those things were connected with B2B connections, or APIs we call that, and that's exactly how this is all going to unfold. There'll be the best-of-breed work order system, and then there'll be the best-of-breed energy management system, and then there'll be the best-of-breed something else. And all of these systems will talk to each other through B2B integrations, and sorry to be technical.
No, it's fine.
And then further to that, all of the devices that are coming in, the hardware companies that are coming in, they will have to standardize on the way that the software community communicates with those devices. So it's going to become this really enormous ecosystem of interconnected systems, and we're just a part of that ecosystem.
Well, what are you doing to lead the way in that ecosystem?
Well, we went to the cloud in 2010. So we were the first company in our entire industry globally that actually was in the cloud, and we do controls from the cloud, and still to this day we're one of the very few companies that do controls from the cloud. So we're leading the charge there, and most of the companies that we're doing business with are really also leading the way. So I see this massive wave coming where gradually the entire world is going to have to adopt these technologies. Yeah.
And is there anything else that world needs to know about Switch Automation?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I see, rather not about Switch, but the biggest thing about our industry is, real estate people have been doing the same thing for 30 years.
Right.
And the big question on their minds is, why now? Why now? Well, I could just go another year and I don't really need to do anything. And I don't know if you saw the ransomware, the WannaCry
Yes.
ransomware last week. That's because people did nothing.
Right.
That is people not upgrading operating systems, and that to me is a big wake-up call to our industry. The why do anything
Right.
argument no longer holds. People need to get out of their comfort zone, and they need to really educate themselves on all of these different technologies. They need to educate themselves on how they're all going to fit together, and they need to come up with a strategy. What I'm seeing around the world is lots of people trialing bright, shiny things. Oh, we need to do something about indoor air quality. Let's trial that. Oh, we need to do something about energy management. Let's trial that. And I'm seeing lots of people trialing things, and that's fantastic because people need to understand some things, but that is not a strategy to get your company to where you've got to get to. And you have to understand the strategy to get yourself from here, which is a world of disconnected, pretty dumb buildings, into this future, which everybody's painting of 50 billion devices connected by 2025. If you think about what your organisation's going to look at in 2025 or 2030, how are you going to get your company to there? And that's the thing that I really am challenging most real estate operators and owners, is how you're going to get from here to there, and what's the strategy to get there. And you won't have all the answers today, but you need to really think about that.
Deb, thank you so much for throwing us that challenge. Deb Noller,
Thank you.
Switch Automation, thank you. We'll